you ever noticed that a Bible passage you've heard dozens of times can suddenly sound completely different? Not because the words changed, but because something in your life did. A verse you've heard for years suddenly speaks to what you're going through. A story you thought you knew takes on a whole new meaning. Jesus knows what happens. That's why he tells the parable of the sower. A farmer scatters seed everywhere. Some falls on the path, some on rocky ground, some among thorns, some on rich soil where it bears an abundant harvest. The seed never changes. What changes is the soil that receives it. Our hearts can be like that too. Sometimes we're open and ready to receive God's word. Other times we're distracted, overwhelmed, or carrying so much that it never really has the chance to sink in. The encouraging part is that our hearts aren't fixed. As we move through different seasons of life, God continues speaking. And sometimes a passage we've heard for years suddenly becomes exactly what we needed to hear. This week, don't just listen for a gospel you've heard before. Listen to what God might be saying to you today, because his word is living, and every time we hear it, there's another opportunity for it to take root. Today's gospel, the parable of the sower, reminds me of one of my favorite experiences in my own life. When I was young in the seminary, we had a pastoral program we needed to be a part of. And when I was in Northern New York, the program that I had signed up for was the Newman Center in Potsdam, New York, that took care of not just Potsdam State, the state college, but also Clarkson College. And I was able to free up enough time to go there for an entire weekend, to spend the time with the Christian community there. And I tried everything, knocking on doors, meeting people. It seemed like everything I did, well, it just didn't work. And I came back to the seminary a little disappointed. Well, the first person I encountered was a schoolmate of mine, very rich spirituality. And he asked how things went. And I said, well, not that well. He could tell I was a little upset. And he said to me, well, look at it this way. This was a weekend to plant the seeds. You just have to trust that God will let them grow. And he was prophetic, because so much of what I did that weekend eventually bore fruit. I made a lot of new friends that weekend I hadn't realized, that began to grow from that time on. And to be honest, I'm still in touch with some of them to this day. A seed was planted. At first, it didn't seem to make much difference. But over time, it took root and grew. That's how God works in our life. I know that's how he's worked in mine. And so keep spreading the seed. Keep bringing the gospel to people's lives. You never know when it's going to hit home. And it may take a while, but that seed is growing. And it's God behind it all. And with God, it can't fail.